So curious how you weigh in on this. Is anything illegal happening? Did collusion happen? And if so, is it punishable? I mean, tell us, is there something suspect here?
Well, thank you for having me, Emily. I appreciate being here. This is a most unusual situation. These markets are among the most regulated places in the world. There are layers and layers of regulations, yet they still allow for what is now a first time only event. The shorts in the market who started this have done what they're doing now for years. They pick out a company like GameStop, doesn't have very good financials, it's got an out-of-date business model, and they short it. Why? Because they think it's going to fall, the price will fall, they'll make money. But nobody ever fights back with the shorts. This is the first time somebody has fought back. And people supposedly through Robinhood, it's not real clear, but probably through Robinhood, are pushing back at them. It's sort of like David throwing rocks at Goliath, except the real problem for us, not for the SEC, which we'll come back to, but for us is we don't know who David is. David could be bigger than the shorts. He could be a huge hedge fund that's really well funded. Nobody actually knows because there's been no disclosure on that because there doesn't have to be any disclosure right now. So the question is really, in the first instance, who's fighting with who?
Right. So then do you suspect that some of this is institutional money? Because it's a lot of money piling into these stocks. And, I know that there are some of these retail investors out there, some folks on Wall Street Bets who are holding on and could make millions right now, but just want to prove a point. But that said, do you think there's more going on here?
Well, there really could be more going on here because if you think about it, the shorts are probably big institutional players, big hedge funds. They're sophisticated traders. They do this kind of thing all the time. And usually what happens is the company complains, they yell their stock's getting crushed. They're unhappy, understandably so, but they don't really do anything. They maybe file a lawsuit that goes no place, and then that's the end of it. The shorts win, they take their money, they go home. That's not happening this time. But to just suggest that this is all a bunch of 17-year-old kids who have fond memories of GameStop and they're trading through Robinhood because there's no brokerage fees there, which there aren't, because they get paid from order flow. To suggest that this is just a handful of kids like that doesn't really ring true. You have to have lots of trading and lots of money to push this stuff. Now, you could have a conglomeration of thousands of kids who are 17 or other people who have fond memories of this thing, and with a whole pile of a lot of little contributions, sort of like a political campaign where you give $5, they could maybe push back enough on these guys that they start to bail out. And that's the key question now. The SEC clearly knows who these people are because they can go to the brokerage firms, they can go to Robinhood and say, we want the account opening documents. We want to know what accounts are trading that stuff, and it'll tell them. But we don't know that. And that's really sort of the more interesting thing because this doesn't happen to the shorts. Usually, like I said, usually they just go crush the stock. They do what they want. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes the shorts. They think they're bad guys. And so, but it moves on. This is sort of like Twitter where somebody with a big following throws out some statement and then everybody jumps on and fights with them. This is the new technology. This is the new kind of stock market bubble, unlike the ones that you saw maybe in 2000, unlike the ones that you saw even in the market crisis in 2008. This is different because now you got multiple sides, whereas before, all you ever saw was the so-called bad guy, the shorts, and the shorts are just traders like everybody else. They're not really bad guys, but people think about them that way. You just saw them, and you saw them pushing down and making money and leaving home. Now, not so much anymore.
Right. Tom, it sounds like some diligence then on the part of the SEC is needed to find out exactly who these people are. I did speak with the CEO of Robinhood, Vlad Tenev, just after our show yesterday, and he tried to explain why they decided to restrict buying, which is what users are so angry about. Take a listen to his explanation.
It's non-negotiable for us to comply with our our financial requirements and our clearinghouse deposits. So we just have to do that. Robinhood has always stood and will continue to stand with the individual investor. We weren't directed by a market maker or any other market participant. This was a technical and operational decision.
Tom, what do you make of Robinhood actions here? Because they're now facing lawsuits. They've got lawmakers on both sides of the aisle calling for an investigation, a hearing, some kind of action. Did Robinhood do anything illegal here or fraudulent?
Probably not. Certainly not by restricting the trading through their brokerage firm. They have obligations to their clients. They have obligations to the market spelled out in all of those customer agreements that allow them to do these sorts of things. And you have to look at exactly how they did it, but presumably they followed their own customer agreements. And there's an overlay of SEC regulations that require them, for example, to have a certain amount of net capital on file. If they don't, the SEC will shut them down. So what you can bet that what the SEC is doing is they're looking at the traders, they're looking at what the shorts are doing, because they usually do. They're clearly looking at what's happening with the traders going through Robinhood, and there's probably other brokerage firms here too. And they're looking at those brokerage firms to make sure that they're in compliance with the net capital rules and the other rules that govern their operations. And if they're not, they'll get shut down.